The Group 6 project is about having all three different forms of arts be able to come together and have a common exhibition in the product where each single art was able to contribute, so that people don't see the arts as theater, music, and visual arts, but as one big whole ensemble that kind of works together to be able to achieve better things.
By doing this, it highlights the links between those three different art domains. And for me before, drama and art was really just another subject that I wasn't really interested in. And now it changed my perspective of this change. Now I see more music, art, and drama as a one way together to express emotion, feelings, stories.
The music students first came up with a piece, and then after hearing that piece, the theater students made a composition based on what they heard, and then the visual arts students made something on what they'd seen, again, another piece, so that we could all produce our own piece and at the same time all have worked together.
I contributed by creating an electronic piece or composition, which was then sent off to the theater students, not knowing how they would interpret it or act it out. I was very surprised at how they did interpret it and act it out, and it was really, really nice to see how each and every one of them did it differently. It's linked to the IB diploma
because one of the tasks that we have to do for IB Theatre is something called the Collaborative Theatre Project, which is basically we get into groups and we use a starting point to create a collaborative piece of theatre, which is basically what we did for this project, except instead of just using a random starting point, we used one of the music students' electronic compositions.
The initial inspiration for the piece came from the theatre piece itself, and one of the formal aspects that I really appreciated was its simplicity, and I wanted to take this aspect forward in my piece. So I looked at a few art movements that were synonymous to simplicity, and I ended up looking at the minimalism art movement. And I researched Saul Lewitt, who is an American conceptual and minimalist artist. And the structure of my piece is heavily inspired by him as well. And what I really like about minimalism is you have a base for the story and then the rest is up for interpretation, which is exactly what I wanted to do for my piece. So that's how I used another artist to influence my piece.
For me, the initial inspiration again was from the theater piece. However, from that piece I took the theme of conflict, which was concentrated in a family dynamic, and I wanted to make that more applicable to a wider audience. So I looked at Banksy, who deals a lot with conflict and wars as one of his main themes in his artworks. And also the fact that Banksy is a very mysterious artist, no one really knows his true identity, intrigued me, as that again links with my idea of having a dual nature shown through my piece, and I felt that his works really connected with what I wanted to convey.
At the beginning, my artistic intentions weren't really clear. I didn't know what to do. So I first watched tutorials of artists making electronic music, and I slowly lead myself into a dubstep piece. It was kind of scary to create a song, because for me it was really the first time that I composed music.
The mood of my piece changed drastically throughout, from the beginning to the end. And I was able to create my own loops, which was really challenging, but in the end I was really impressed with what I was able to create.
The Group 6 project allowed us to get other inspiration than what we usually get. Instead of just looking at other artists, we look at completely different art forms, give a more holistic view, and helped us improve ourselves as artists.
I wouldn't say that there was any specific aspect of the piece that I contributed to more than the others. Our group was really, really collaborative, and I think we were all involved in creating our piece of theatre, which was really cool to work with.
The music piece that we listened to had a very happy melody to it, and we wanted to incorporate that into our piece to be able to recognize the original song that we chose as our starting
point. And what we did was we listened to it a bunch of times and took notes on what stood out about the piece to us. And the thing that we identified as like the main idea or key aspect of the piece was change, because there were moments where the melody shifted or there was just like a really obvious change in the style of the music. And so once we identified that, we decided to use change as the central theme for our piece.
We used dramatic conflict in our piece to portray the social responsibility and have a greater impact on the audience. We wanted the audience to feel as though they had to do the right thing after leaving and after having watched our piece.
So we decided to use the Frantic Assembly approach, which is a professional theater company, and it's very physical theater. So we used that approach to explore the idea of change so that we would still be true to the piece without having it actually present in our final piece of theater.
I was quite relieved when I finally finished the piece because I wanted to make it an interactive one, especially with the theme of conflict and dual nature of war. I made the puzzle pieces and I didn't know whether they'd work at first. So having completed it, it did feel quite good. And in terms of intentions that I wanted to convey, I wanted people to be able to actually feel and move things around and see how they felt when they realized the true meaning behind the piece. And I feel that I did achieve it to a certain extent because most of the audience were confused by what they were doing.
This piece really moved me because as artists, the only thing that matters most is what an impact our music makes on the audience. And we often doubt the quality of our work, but at the end, I think I was really happy with what I could come up with, and after everyone heard to my piece,
I was feeling really proud, and I was even more proud when I saw what the art student did.
Felt even better than I usually did while completing a piece that I thought was relatively successful, because I knew I looked at all different possible aspects of it and was able to have a very complete version based on not only real life situations but also other art forms.